along the Humber River watershed, which historically provided an integral connection for Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wyandot peoples between the Ontario Lakeshore and the Lake Simcoe Georgian Bay regions. Now home to people of numerous nations, Adobo Goat continues to provide a vital source of interconnection for all. We acknowledge and honor the land we are walking on, the moccasin tracks of our ancestors, and the footprints of the future generations to come. So in this session, I'll be presenting the Humber Student Success Survey dashboard, and I'll be doing so through the lens of data literacy and data-driven decision-making. So data literacy is a concept I think is familiar to many people. A basic definition would be the ability to explore, understand, and communicate with data. Now, as we are subjected to an ever-increasing intensity of data in both our personal and professional lives, data literacy is quickly becoming an essential skill to simply make sense of the world around us. In many sectors, including higher education, the increase in the intensity of data is accompanied by an increased demand for the use of data and hard evidence to inform professional practice. And this demand motivates a more action-oriented form of data literacy that we will call data-driven decision-making, which for our purposes we can define as the systematic collection, analysis, examination, and interpretation of data to inform practice and policy in educational settings. Here's a conceptual diagram of the data-driven decision-making process. We begin by collecting and organizing raw data, analyzing it and summarizing it to produce information, and then we transform that information into knowledge, which we then apply to answer questions and make decisions. The dashboard that I'll be sharing today is intended to help you apply this process to your own work by taking care of the first two steps. We have collected, organized, and summarized survey data to make it easier for you to proceed directly to the knowledge step and find answers to the questions you may have. So for the rest of the session, I will be following this data-driven decision-making framework. I'm going to give a brief overview of the Humber Student Success Survey and show you how to access the dashboard related to the survey. I will then be demoing the dashboard to give you an idea of the kind of information that is available. And then I'll be giving an example of how that information can be transformed into knowledge. I will be answering the question, how has student engagement at Humber been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic? So the Humber Student Success Survey, or HSSS, you have to make sure you have the right number of S's, is an annual survey administered by Institutional Planning and Analysis to all Humber students enrolled in full-time funded programs. It's a pretty comprehensive survey. It includes over 40 questions relating to a wide variety of topics, including student demographics, career planning and preparation, demands on time, student engagement and experiences at Humber, as well as student finances. And we are very lucky that our response rate for the survey is always over 40%, which is excellent for these type of surveys. So overall, HSSS gives us a very large, very rich data source on which to base our decisions. And survey results for 2018, 2019, and 2020 are available in a publicly accessible dashboard through the Humber IPA website. So you can access the dashboard at the indicated URL, humber.ca/strategic planning. At the bottom of the page, or towards the bottom of the page, in a blue box labeled Institutional Analysis, you'll see an item called Humber Student Success Survey Results, and clicking on that will take you to the dashboard. So the bulk of the session, I'm actually now going to switch my screens, if you'll bear with me for a moment, and we will walk through the dashboard so you can see the type of information that is available. Okay, so I'm here on the Humber website. I click Humber Student Success Survey Results. And I'm brought to the dashboard, which is hosted on the Tableau public server. So we're brought here to the title page, and we see immediately we have, for fall 2020, we can see the total number of respondents and the response rate. So this past year, the survey response rate was 42%. So again, that's very good for these types of surveys. Here we have two drop-down filters. The first one allows us to view response rates for previous surveys. And the second drop-down allows us to view the response rates for individual faculties. Below that, we have a blue navigation bar. Survey results are spread across a number of pages, and we navigate to the pages by clicking the appropriate icons. So we'll go to the first page, which is related to student demographics. At least I hope we'll go to the student demographics page. Oh, this is embarrassing. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So the first page in the HSS dashboard displays demographic information about our respondents. So an important caveat for these data right off the bat, I'm going to be referring to respondents rather than students in the results. Although we have a 42% response rate, the flip side to that is that we are missing information about 58% of our students at Humber. And there's no guarantee that the students who responded to the survey are necessarily representative of the entire student population. So with that point in mind, this first page here gives a pretty good general idea of the demographic makeup of HSSS respondents. So we see here distributions by age, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, and racial background. And HSSS serves actually as one of our primary sources for student demographic information. The next page is related to career preparation and planning. And we appear to be having trouble with the dashboard buttons. Oh, there we go. So I'll note that below the blue navigation bar on our dashboard pages, we also have a gray bar containing some additional functionalities. So one is a drop-down menu that allows you to select results for prior terms, prior surveys. We also have some filtering options. So there's a drop-down menu that allows you to select a filtering option. On the public dashboard, those are filtering by faculty, credential, or campus. And then for the selected filter, we have an additional drop-down menu that allows you to select the item that you want. So we have the option of, say, filtering by faculty. And we remove filters by hovering over the option and clicking this little X in the top right corner. We can also, for example, go filter by credential. So the drop-down menu changes and we can select, say, to view results for diploma respondents only. Next to those, we have two buttons that allow us to export the current dashboard view we were looking at. So we can click on either of these two buttons to take the current view that we have and save it as either a PDF file or a PowerPoint slide. So on this page, we have the responses to questions related to certainty of program completion, both in general and within its intended duration, and also responses to questions related to career planning and knowledge of career options. The next page is related to demands on time. So students were asked to indicate in a typical 7-day week, how many hours they spend on a number of activities. And we have the distribution of results here split up by non-educational activities, so working for pay, providing care for dependents, traveling, volunteering, as well as educational demands, time completing assignments, studying outside of class, or preparing for class. So we can see here the distribution of time spent on various activities for our respondents. There are 2 pages related to student engagement and experiences, and these displays require a little bit of explanation. So students were presented with a number of statements and asked to indicate the degree to which they agree or disagree with those statements. So what we have done here in these displays is we have coded negative responses, students who say they strongly disagree or disagree, in orange, while positive responses, either agree or strongly agree, in blue. And then we have left the neutral response, neither agree nor disagree, in gray. So if we look at each of these items, we can see the balance of negative sentiment in orange on the left and the balance of positive sentiments, agreements, in blue on the right. And then to the far right in gray are our neutral responses. So we can see at a glance that, for example, keeping up with courses has not been a major concern or challenge for students. 80% of students have responded positively to this item. While on the other hand, developing friendships in their programs was more of a challenge in fall 2020. Just over half of the respondents responded positively to that item. So we have 2 pages of responses to these items related to engagement and experience. The next page, we have a set of questions that were new to our fall 2020 survey related to coping abilities. We asked students to rate their current abilities in the following areas: coping with stressors in their life, persisting when things are difficult, and seeking help when needed. And these responses are coded in the same way as the previous set of questions. So we have negative responses, students who responded poor or below average, in orange. And then we have positive responses, students who responded average, good, or excellent, in blue. In HSSS, we also invite students to disclose whether or not they have a disability. And among those students who did report having a disability, we asked them to then indicate the extent to which their condition or disability negatively affected or interfered with their academic performance. And we see the summary of results for that question right here. We have a page related to student finances. We asked students which of the following best reflects your level of concern with financing your food, housing, or tuition. And so we have here in blue students who reported no concerns on these issues, and then in increasing shades of orange, those who reported being a little concerned, concerned, or very concerned with financing these particular items. And then lastly, we have a breakdown of sources of financial support for students. So in blue, we have students reporting whether an item was a major or minor source of income, and then in gray, students who reported it was not a source of income for them. And these are items like bursaries and grants, employment income, OSAP loans, money from parents or family, etc. And the final page in the dashboard is a crosstab. So this is a dynamic table below our gray filter box. We have another drop-down menu that allows you to select one of the topics that our pages are grouped by in the navigation bar. And then for that group of questions, we can see the actual count of responses and the percentage of the total for each question and each response. So this presents the data at the highest level of granularity that we have, that of individual responses. So that is an overview of our HSSS dashboard. I'm going to switch back to my slides. Again, bear with me for one moment. So that's an overview of the HSSS dashboard, and I hope it has given you a sense of the information that is available in the dashboard and prompted you to start thinking about the kinds of questions that the dashboard can answer. So as we've seen, the HSSS dashboard covers a wide range of topics, and so it may be used to answer questions of interest to many groups. So examples of questions that we could investigate include student finances and time spent working, student social experiences, their sense of belonging or their participation in college activities, students' academic experiences, their study habits or their feelings of program fit, and unique to this past year's survey, also students' experiences with online learning. The responses can also be compared across different student groups to provide context and enhance insights and understandings. So we can use our drop-down filter options to compare responses across terms or investigate differences between faculties and credentials. So to give an example of how we can convert information in the dashboard into knowledge about Humber students, we're going to look at the question, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected student engagement? So we all have informal answers to this question that we might have formed based on a gut feeling or intuition or anecdotal evidence. We can ask, what do the data actually say? So what we'll do is we'll compare fall 2019 and fall 2020 responses to a selection of questions, and we'll look at how those responses have changed between those two terms in order to assess changes in student engagement. So I've set up a custom view here. I selected 3 items from our student engagement and experience section. The statements are, I've developed friendships in my program, I've developed a good connection with one or more of my professors, and I made a good connection with an advisor, staff, or other non-faculty person in the college. And we can see the distribution of responses for fall 2019 in the top row for each item and for fall 2020 in the bottom row for each item. And what we can see if we compare the blue numbers indicating overall positive sentiment is that the proportion of students responding positively to these items, for the first one, developing friendships, has declined by 25%. For the second, involving connection with professors, has declined by 24%. And for the last one, connection with an advisor or other staff member, has declined by 15%. So these data are telling us that there's been a substantial decrease in the proportion of respondents agreeing that they have developed connections with peers, professors, and advisors. In other words, student engagement has substantially eroded over the past year in the course of the pandemic. So these results really highlight the importance of the ongoing student engagement outreach efforts. And I think they really justify all of the effort and attention that has gone towards fostering student connection over the past year. And as we look ahead into the future, as the pandemic ebbs and a new normal is established, previous year's responses might actually suggest future targets for engagement efforts. So we might ask, can student engagement rebound to or perhaps even exceed pre-pandemic levels? So this brings me towards the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed the demo of the HSSS dashboard, and I invite you all to log on and take a closer look after this session to see what you can discover. And most of all, I encourage you all to consider how the dashboard might be used to help answer questions and inform decisions in your own practice. So as one final thought, I began with a very simple definition of data literacy, so I'm going to leave you with a more sophisticated one. Data literacy is more than simply looking at the numbers or statistics collected through analysis. It refers to the ability to transform numbers and statistics into strategies that meet the needs of specific students. So that is the end of my session presentation. So I have seen some questions pop up in the chat, so I think we can switch over to that.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Does anyone have any questions for Jeffrey? You can unmute yourself and ask the questions, or you can feel free to put it in the chat box. I can read them out for Jeffrey. Yes, Annette has a question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this. And Jeffrey, thank you for diving into sort of that